In the debate here in the studio, did they bottle it? What happened? I hate the word bottle. It's been used a lot to describe Arsenal's season. And look, I mean, expectations change throughout the season. So, yes, they weren't expected to challenge for the title. But when you're there, when you're in the race, when you're 8 points clear of City, you've got to go in and win it and shock the world. When did you, Harry, believe you were going to win it? And when did you believe you weren't going to win it?
I never, ever thought...
Stop it.
No, I didn't. We've done this show how many times this year? Yeah. And at no point did I ever come in here and say that.
So you're telling me there wasn't a game where you thought, my God, we're actually going to do this?
The one moment I had where I thought maybe it's written that we're going to do it this year was the Bournemouth victory. I know it was against Bournemouth.
Not the Villa one.
No, it was Bournemouth for me with the last minute Reece Nelson goal. There was something about that moment.
4-3?
Yeah, 3-2.
3-2.
Yeah. There was something about that moment that made me feel like maybe it's written that Arsenal are going to go on and win it this season. So there was a bit of excitement there. But generally speaking, I've been cautious about Arsenal this season because I've always felt that they were punching above their weight. I always felt that they were performing at 90% plus in every game that they went into for a long period of time. But you knew that wasn't sustainable. And you know why? Because the squad isn't deep enough. It's as simple as that. You can sit there and you can come up with 101 reasons that you can blame Mikel Arteta and you can blame individual players. Ultimately, he didn't have the tools to be able to freshen it up when it needed freshening up. He didn't have the tools to cope with certain injuries to key players, William Saliba being the big one over the last few months. He didn't have the backup to maybe even take somebody like Bukayo Saka out of the picture in the last few weeks where his performances have dropped off. Not that I want to dig him out as an individual, but
energy levels dropped off.
Energy levels dropped. You know, you got to remember as well that this team went 3 months without Gabriel Jesus, in which they did drop some points, which they might not have dropped had Gabriel Jesus been available during that period. So there's a lot of factors as to why Arsenal fell off. And if you sat there and thought that Arsenal were going to cruise to the title, then I would say to those people, you're deluded. I'm sorry. Because that team was always punching above its weight and it was clear for everybody to see. Anybody that's followed that team's progress under Mikel Arteta would have known that it was only ever around the corner from a dip in form.
Yeah. Now,
the last few weeks have been tough. They've won 2 of their last 8 in the league, which has been obviously a big disappointment. But things can change on such small moments. You know, that game at Anfield, Arsenal got a lot of stick for that, being 2-0 up and not winning the game. I think you can justify a draw at Anfield at any point.
Not when you're 2-0 up.
I think you can.
Not when you're going for the title, when you're 2-0 up and you're going against a team that are bang out of form. Those are the games I think you've got to win.
I don't think that was an unforgivable result. I was at that game and I came away from it thinking, obviously I'm disappointed we didn't win, but it's a draw at Anfield. You take it on the chin, you move on. The big disappointment for me was West Ham. To be 2-0 up there and to give away goals of the nature that we did was obviously
to be 2-0 up and then to not be 3-0 up when Bukayo Saka misses the penalty. Yeah. 3-0 up, game's over, it's done, you move on. You make important subs to rest legs. It's big moments. See, I think the biggest problem for Arsenal hasn't been Arteta maybe getting a few things wrong, which I think he had. And going to, I don't think it's Saliba or Saka. I think the biggest problem is Man City. Honestly, I said even when you're 8 points clear, I've always said Man City are going to win the league, just because as a Liverpool fan, I know the feeling of them winning 12 in a row.
Yeah,
and you genuinely thinking they can't continue this, and they do. Liverpool go on record runs of we win 10 games in a row. It's not enough. As you say, a point at Anfield is great, but it's not enough because City get 3.
Yeah,
that's the problem. They make a draw a draw at Anfield seem like a bad result because they just don't stop winning. And it's sickening. Trust me, I've had it for 4 seasons. 4 seasons of them just not losing, not drawing, and then when the games are, because they win, then you've got to win.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They win. They always seem to play before you. It's just constant pressure, and it just gets to you.
It does. And, you know, people use the bottle term, which to me is a nonsense, because if you're saying that Arsenal bottled it, it means that you thought Arsenal were going to win it, which to me means that you didn't really know what this team was about. You didn't really understand the sort of mechanics underneath the bonnet of this team. Yes, on the surface it looked great, but we were quite fortunate with injuries in the first few months of the season. Apart from the loss of Jesus, there was nothing else really significant. Zinchenko had missed a few weeks here and there. Odegaard missed 1 game at Brentford. Tomiyasu was in and out a little bit, but generally speaking, the health of the side was really good. But if you knew it's like when you go and buy a car, you go and buy a second-hand car. If you don't know what you're looking at, how do you know what you're buying? You open the bonnet, but you don't know what you're looking at. And people that thought that Arsenal were going to cruise to the Premier League title, in my opinion, did not understand where this team were actually at.
Yeah, a big problem, obviously, the midfield as well. I mean, Partey started the season incredibly well. Xhaka incredibly well as well. And both of those levels dropped. Partey dropped off a cliff.
Partey has, in the last, I want to say 8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah,
I don't want to say the same about Xhaka because I don't think he's dropped off significantly. I think he's been impacted by a couple of things. So Zinchenko defensively, for all the positives he brings to the team, isn't as sound defensively as maybe Kieran Tierney is, although Zinchenko gives you more in another sense. Yeah. But Xhaka often has to fill in for him. Gabriel's been impacted because he's had to fill in for him going out to that left-hand side. And without William Saliba alongside him to just shuffle across, and then Ben White to do the same from right back, has been a problem. The balance of the team has been upset by some of these absences. And if you don't have like-for-like replacements, players of similar profiles, you can't maintain that balance, which means you tweak your style of play, which means you drift away from what's been successful.
What do you want next season, player? Obviously, you want the league next season, and you should be going for the league next season. If you can add 3 additions to your squad, and look, that's all you're going to do. You're not going to. I know you need a bigger squad. You're not going to get 6 or 7, but if you can add 3, what positions are they?
I think we need to bring in probably a couple of midfielders. For me, particularly if Granit Xhaka is going to leave the club, you need a winger. I think on the right-hand side, we've got a lot of players that are good playing from the left. Smith Rowe, Martinelli can do that job if you need them to. Trossard, better on the left than he is on the right. But I think we need a right winger, a couple of centre midfielders, and we need a centre-back. Probably for me, or a right-back, one or the other.
It's strange, now that you're going for the title, right? Like next season, Arsenal should be going for the title. Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, United. It's weird how the players that you've got at the club now you're going for a title, they're no longer good enough for that. Does that make sense? Like when you were going for top 4, top 6, like this is not a dig at Emil Smith Rowe because I think he's a good player, but now I'm thinking, is he good enough for what Arsenal want to be in the next 4 or 5 years? I don't know if he is anymore.
I worry for him because he's come back from injury, which obviously had a big impact on sort of him being kind of left behind as the team evolved and developed. But the fact that he hasn't even got a look in since coming back,
0.
It concerns me because, there's been times where, people are suggesting that he's learning to play the 8 position. There have been times where we needed an 8, even late on in games, and he's not got a look in. There have been times where Martinelli's needed a rest, but Mikel Arteta's turned to Trossard instead. There have been times where Odegaard has been left out in cup competitions or whatever, and again, Emil Smith Rowe hasn't got a look in. So I worry for him about how he finds his way back into the side, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's used as a make weight in a deal this summer.
Very quickly, where do you think you finish next season? I want a head over heart here now. Where do you think you finish in the league next season?
I think you got to be aiming.
No, not.
Okay, so where do I think?
Yeah.
Where do I think Arsenal finish? Probably 3rd. I was going to say 2nd, and I flipped to 3rd.
I saw 2nd come out of your mouth. I saw 2nd. It's 3rd.
Third.
Okay,
Third.
cool.